Good afternoon to everyone. We still have participants who are joining, so we will give them a minute. Meanwhile, we see various people joining with greetings on the chat. It's really very nice to see that we have a very diverse audience today. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So until we start with the program, we quite often say that an event has a sandwich structure, but this one has more like a layered cake structure, I would say. It's great to start the week discussing open science and one area which is really quite challenging, and there are plenty of developments within it. This is how open science contributes to research assessment. So today we have this meeting, which is organized as the first online event of a small project with the acronym CoARA. This comes from Advancing Sofia University St. Clement Ohridski's Research Assessment Towards Open Research. Sofia University is the oldest and still the most visible and prestigious higher education institution in Bulgaria, but like many other institutions across the world and in Europe, it still has quite a long way to go until open science is integrated into the research assessment practices. So we will start this event with a few short interventions from the Ministry of Education and Sofia University. And then we will have the talk of our invited speaker. We are very pleased to have with us Dr. Birgit Schmidt, who is a great expert and I would say a great champion of the open science causes in different domains. Then we will switch into Bulgarian with the Bulgarian participants to basically discuss with them how they see this domain developing in Bulgaria. But as the topic attracts lots of interest, we thought that we would really start in English and invite also other colleagues from all over Europe and elsewhere in the world. So I think we could proceed with our plans, and it's my great pleasure to, I didn't introduce myself, but I'm Milena Dobreva, I'm Bulgarian, I'm very interested in the open science developments, and I can look at it also because I work currently in Scotland from a sort of a different perspective. And I would like to invite Mrs. Janita Zherkova, who is a representative of the Science Directorate of the Bulgarian Ministry for Science and Education and Science, to give us a little introduction of how this topic resonates with the work this directorate does in the area of open science. Janita.
Thank you, Milena. Good afternoon, colleagues and friends. First of all, I would like to give regards from our director, Milena Damjanova, who is supposed to greeting you, but she was asked by the cabinet to some meeting, and she won't be able. So I would like to say that this is a great pleasure for me to welcome you today to this event dedicated to strengthen Bulgaria's research ecosystem through openness, transparency, and evidence-based assessment. Those two elements of the policy are of great importance for us, for the ministry. They lay down in our main strategic documents, and over the past decades, we made significant progress in the area of open science and assessment itself, starting with concept in 2011. The concept on open science, the culmination was when we introduced and adopted in 2022 the National Open Science Plan, and then this allowed Bulgaria to build on this strong foundation the open science research policy, and the Bulgarian Open Science Portal was the instrument that was built in the same year. Now the portal hosting over 60,000 publications represents our commitment to visibility, accessibility, and institutional capacity building. Supported by national programs and transformative agreements, our researchers can now publish openly and without embargo, amplifying their reach and impact. But open science is not the only part of the picture. We are also committed to an objective, transparent evaluation system. The national evaluation system started to be implemented in 2016. And the national framework aims to evaluate the activities of research organizations, analyze their positioning in the European and global research area, identify and support research through the objective, measurable, and transparent evaluation criteria, analyze the effectiveness and of investments in research and innovation and economic growth, and to ensure full public accountability and transparency in how national research policy are implemented and funded. Maybe most of you are aware that in the previous year, a new law for promotion of research and innovation was adopted by the National Assembly. This law is also introducing a part of the law devoted to open science and evaluation, and we were now how to say, we are now armed with this new legislative framework in order to make the system more effective and efficient. So the remarkable example of institutional initiative is the CoARA project led by the Sofia University, and I'm glad to follow how this project is going to what objectives the project is going to reach out. I believe all of the objectives will be successfully reached. But this is going to be from me and from the perspective of the Ministry of flagship project in order to think together with the stakeholders how to transform our evaluation system to become to implement open science as a policy and practices in the system of evaluation, to evaluate the quality and openness, and also to evaluate the impacts of the society on the society. Let me express our gratitude to the institutions leading these transformations, Sofia University and the overall higher education and research community in Bulgaria. Together we are shaping a future where Bulgarian science is visible, valued, and truly world-class. Thank you for your presence today. Let's use this opportunity to strengthen collaboration and continue moving forward with confidence and purpose. Have a great event today.
Thanks a lot to Mrs. Žarkova. As you heard, the ministry actually works on a number of very necessary different types of actions, spanning from legislation to the National Program for Open Science. And it's really interesting to be here today because, as noted, we are starting this dialogue also to see how to improve the research assessment, starting from institutional cases and hopefully helping the national strategy. Now, if there are no questions or comments to Mrs. Zherkova, and you could always use the chat to ask questions or raise your hand. I would like to invite Professor Anna Projkova from Sofia University to also give us a glimpse about the place of our in the efforts of Sofia University. We are very happy to have always Professor Projkova when we discuss open science, because she's really one of the pioneers and also the big movers of this domain in Bulgaria. She also represents our country on different European bodies which are shaping the policies in open science and especially in open data. So, Professor Projkova, would you like to share your? I know that you have a presentation.
Yes, I will try. Thank you for this very kind presentation, Milana. I'm glad to be with you. Let me see how this works. Is it okay?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much. So I start with playing directly this presentation, but let me share a couple of words about the shared activities between Sofia University and Ministry of Science and Education. Actually, one of the very supportive actions in Bulgaria is this partnership between the Directorate Science and our university. They are very all the time open to support various activities. So now let me start the presentation. I go back. As Milena said, my activity in open science are already over 5 years. And I start with one, in my view, very important research report, which was published in 2019 by the European University Association. Probably you know the role of this association in promoting open science. So, jumping into the topic, in this report, they underlined in 2019, already 6 years ago, the three main purposes of university research assessment: research careers, research unit performance evaluation, and internal research funding allocation. So actually, with small characters, I gave the summary that university approaches at that time, so 6 years ago, to research assessment are primarily or not exclusively carried out at institutional and faculty departmental level. There are several countries where this assessment was done immediately at the national level. So actually, one of the things which are very basic for research career assessments, these are numeric metrics, as I call them. Number of publications and citations, which are considered very important or at least important in the assessment procedure. Then imagine that qualitative peer-reviewed assessments are less important. This means that you invite peer reviewers to look at the output of the research and they give qualitative assessment. But this is considered by the universities less important. And the third, even lesser important, is the research impact and knowledge transfer indicator like IPR patents and licenses. So 6 years is actually a long period on one side and very short period of time on the other side. But still, after 6 years, we actually said that, look, if you say that for the research career, it is not important or less important how the researchers are covering the open science and open access indicators, if you are not interested in altmetric measuring of the societal outreach or metrics measuring academic attention, please wake up and just consider something new. So as I've written here, open science calls for a thinking assessment. And that's funny that one of the very big European projects, Opus, which is Open and Universal Science, established a research assessment framework, and they started to talk about RAF. So I'm smiling here because actually RAF is very old abbreviation for Royal Air Forces. But I like this very much because we could consider Royal Air Forces as lifting company for our research assessment framework. So RAF is structured around 4 main categories, which are divided in subcategories. I just copied for short looking at the Opus framework. It's actually quite rich presentation of the framework, but I will stop only at the 4 pillars: research, education. Then here, this is something I cannot close the images.
The presentation is
Do you
visible.
see, actually, do you see the whole slide?
Yes, research, education, leadership, and valorization.
Yeah, but this seems that this is only me that does not see. That's good. So you see. Yeah, so valorization is something new. I only give it 10 seconds because we at Sofia University discuss it for 2 or 3 years already, but I wouldn't say we have a very high level of achievement how to interpret this. I hope that the organizers will share the presentation because I find this Opus framework useful in order to have it at hand. So let me go to our university and specifically focus on open science projects and activities. Actually, everything started with 2019 award and tried to use the Human Resources Excellent Research logo. It was a long process, about 2.5 years of our universities, and let me share that the reviewers of the status of the universities were very strict. So then in 2019, we had a RDA, Research Data Alliance Europe project, and we established a node, which is at the Sofia University, but this node serves the whole country. We have members from the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, from the National Agency for Documentation, this called NATSID, Ministry of Education, and many libraries. So the role of this node is still very important because we became in 2020 EOSC Association full member, and all information which needs to share about the EOSC A activities goes through this node web page. Then another important changes in the status of the Sofia University was the membership in the European University Association. what was the result of this membership? That immediately we started to change thinking how to assess the progress of PhD research. So at the departmental level, we included efforts which are related with open data deposition in the repository. And then in 2021, Sofia University adopted the strategy for development of human resources in science and innovation. And now we are very proud to be host. We, I mean Sofia University, to be host of the two very important ITMAU project that has been written and shared to us with Milena Dobreva, openly speaking. So these are Orbit project, which started last year, and our project, which is starts this year. So actually, one of the problems we started to see that professors, which are very active in promotion of the science in research and education, become very, very overloaded because actually we did not include yet in their annual assessment, because every professor is annually analyzed his activity, and every 5 year a major assessment of the activities. So participation in national projects, outreach activities, open days, and public talks, all these participations are only mentioned but not taken very seriously. And what we see is that we have this overload of researchers at Sofia University. They are involved in research in many projects, because when the people are experienced, they are invited and they work in this field. But they are obliged to teach at BS and MS level and to teach and advise PhD students. Now, accreditation activities are an important part of Sofia University activity in the open science field. And here I just mentioned two projects which are huge, you see, and the people who are involved in these projects which are running now, Orbit and AURA, are involved in this huge project, which is European establishment of network of European competence centers in HPC, HPDI, and AI, which actually is a consortium of three institutions: Institute of Information Technologies in Bas, University of National and World Economy, and Sofia University, which is involved mainly in trainings in these new technologies. And the training program overview, if you look at that, it's really heavy. We are taking a lot of open science initiatives on the borders of the lecturers. And because of this, we were involved as university in another European project. This is the European Master Program in HPC, and which is our proud status of awarding university, meaning that Sofia University is one of the 8 universities eligible to issue double degree diploma. Extremely complicated situation where we just offer our new achievements in quantum informatics in open days. Last week we had like that. So I just wanted to share with you various activities which Sofia University is taking part in order to promote open science. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was very comprehensive, and I think it gave a good idea what are the current achievements, aspirations, and also challenges, both to Sofia University and the larger research community in Bulgaria. Thank you very much, Professor Projkova. And now it's my pleasure to invite and hear from another colleague from Bulgaria who has multiple hats, I would say. This is Professor Kostadin Kostadinov, who is first of all, a researcher with over 100 publications, with over 20 patents, with numerous awards. He also worked as part of the teams leading the Ministry of Education. He served as a Deputy Minister of Education and Science, and also as an advisor to the Minister of Education. But he also has I would say head which has to deal with commercialization, because he has extensive experience also in the area of technology transfer, innovation, and he is a co-founder of the company Microna. So it's very interesting to hear how open science integrates in the life of someone who has these different areas of work and activities. The floor is yours, Professor Kostadinov.
Thank you, Dr. Dobreva. Let me first share my presentation. As I understood, I have 10 minutes just to keep on time. So the focus of my presentation is the challenges to European Commission national and regional policies related to the open science, open innovation, which is leading to the open to the world. I will not stop on the definition. Professor Projkova mentioned some important things of this, but building the knowledge society and economic knowledge-based economy requires universal access to the information and knowledge through the information and communication technology. A key role for this is the free access to the scientific information and recently obtained advanced research results. To have such a open science, we have to have inquiring society. Inquiring society could be considered as a scientist, so the open science has to be open to the scientist, open to the schools for the new generation, and open for the society or for industry. And finally, is open to the policy for delivering evidence-based policy decision, which is not less important than the first three. I will not stop on the national strategy, which is envisage open access publication as a main element of the strategic aim of increasing the research results visibility. But the key indicator is introduced in our regulation for monitoring and assessment of scientific activities performed by the public funded research organization and university. This key indicator is number of scientific publications with open access. But for now, since 10 years, we are applying this regulation. This is a still informative indicator. Why open science is important? It's important to allow to have open innovation. And we can define several challenges that are applied to the open innovation. First of all of this is knowledge and technology transfer. In this way, I wonder why Professor Proikova said that research impact knowledge transfer and IPR patents and licenses are lesser important than the publication. We have to find in this challenge new and smart approaches for realization of technology transfer. For example, AI-based knowledge and technology transfer. We need to make complementary open science and IPR. And the general aim of the European Union open science policy is to enable the replicability and the uptake of research results by others. But this end goal of such policy should be to enable these research results to be used in open innovation context, thereby speeding up the uptake of innovation with high impact for the society. This unbalanced one-size-fits-all European open science policy, where the concept of open science is still too often associated with the free of charge access for all, would be highly detrimental to the European research and development and innovation ecosystem. This would prevent industry from securing the element of shared value capture, which is very essential to open innovation. This is why the IPR framework is essential tool to facilitate, regulate, and secure open science by ensuring that the efforts from different contributors are correctly rewarded. IPR are key to offer balanced rights to both the users and the creators of open science content. Different type of innovation. Open innovation is characterized by two most important things. First is value creation by the partners working in collaboration, co-creating the knowledge, technology to boost innovation output and value capture. While the open science could offer value creation, we need someone to organize and to proceed the value capture. Sorry. There are three different ways to do so. This is the directly commissioned collaborative project with private partners. This is still continuing the value creation. And IPR licensing among various participating partners is an important model of open innovation collaboration. And the last one is startups. Still waiting some university in Bulgaria to create startups based on their IPR. This is why this innovation cycle is based on the research and technology organization. Industry collaboration is very important. Here, this is the scheme proposed by Fraunhofer institution, modified by European Association of Research and Technology Organization, and by myself. Here, I would like to stress the following things. First, we need to make such a research which is provoked by the industry or by the society needs or idea. This is a preliminary technology transfer. And for the value creation, I already shared with you my thoughts, but here, most important is value capture to have socio-economic impact. Speaking about open science, without this part of value capture is nonsense. Here is, I add also the knowledge transfer for the new project. Second challenge in open innovation is better exploiting the existing approaches such as joint technology initiative, joint entertainment, national or international research missions, a research program that responds to the needs and challenges of the society. In Bulgaria, we applied this new instrument, a national research program. Here is the example of 3 of them. And in this table are 7 national research program in Bulgarian language here, but it's not so important which they are. But what is important is that based on the results of this research programs which already finished before 2-3 years, all they built a high capacity of research based on the research center of competence or center of excellence. For the preliminary technology transfer, we applied this concept proposed by Steinbeis Foundation, Germany. We are working, this transfer center is working under franchising contract with this foundation for technology transfer. The third challenge is intellectual property right, which is the key to success in commercialization of research results. And we have to consider that IP is a non-material asset with commercial value, which is easily realized on the market via licensing or creating high-tech startups. Scale up and acceleration. The other challenge is the strengthening city partnership with European Union, international and local stakeholders on establishment of research and innovation hub for capacity building, training, and research evidence-based measure for more efficient regional policy. Here is one example using the Sofia science. Let's say this is the science proposed by all university and Bulgarian Academy of Sciences, by this Science and Technology Innovation Expert Council to the Mayor of Sofia, which have been founded June 2012 and has been reported in the Competitiveness Council as a good practice for the formation of science-based and effective urban policies. Of course, science meets parliaments and science meets region is also important. For open innovation, we organize in Sofia municipality innovation hackathons. Here is some picture of Sofia Science Meet Region and Science Meet Parliament. I will not stop on this STOA, but let me conclude that some efforts need to be made to improve the transformation of knowledge available from the open science into the socio-economic advantages through the open innovation. And the challenge that the science puts to the policy is to find the effective instruments that make science open science a mere factor for the Europe economic development and a place with a high quality of life for its citizens, such as open innovation. And this is how to encourage the society to look for, to use the research results. Monitoring and assessment of the research activities of the publicly funded research organization and universities, and funding the research depending on the results obtained. And the responsible research and innovation funding to be reactive and research and innovation to meet the societal and industrial needs, and maybe more. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Professor Kostadinov. It was very helpful to see this connection with open innovation, which continued also the topic of valorization and value creation, which Professor Projkova also mentioned. Could you please stop sharing your screen?
One moment.
Any questions or comments from our participants? So with these three short talks, we hope we gave, you're still sharing your screen. And we, you should have somewhere a stop sharing button.
Now it's okay.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll ask Teodora to monitor if there are any questions or raised hands, because I will now try to share my small introductory presentation again. Do you see it?
Yes, everything.
Okay, any questions or comments? So with these three talks, we wanted to give a bit of a feeling what is currently happening in Bulgaria, where the efforts are going into. And now we will have a very short checking in who is here. I will use something which is called Slido. So if you go on a website or use your phones and you go to slido.com and enter this number, you don't need to disclose who you are. But we just have three very quick questions for you. So the first question is, what is your research domain? If you could just answer in a word or two to see what type of different research areas we have represented. So to do this, you need to go to slido.com, either on a browser, on a laptop or on a computer or on a phone, and add this number 1604330. I have 11 people who contributed so far, so I will wait just a few more seconds to see who is around, at least from the point of view of what we are doing professionally. So there was a question in the chat, what do you mean by research domain? So if you come with a background from academia, for example, my research domain is information science, but if you, for example, come from a library domain, just put that you're a librarian. I hope this helps. I think that about half of the participants answered, so I will disclose what is happening here. So we can see that we have a lot of different areas. Information science, not surprisingly, is more represented, but we have also people who are public servants, people who work in linguistics, robotics, data governance, ICT, philosophy, law. We have libraries appearing, so I'm really pleased to see that we have quite a good spread of areas. So if we continue to the next question for you, it is where do you come from, in which country you are? So not surprisingly, we have the majority of participants coming from Bulgaria, but we also can see well, Germany is represented because our guest speaker is from Germany, but we also can see that we have Scotland, Turkey, Ghana, maybe some other countries. So this is based on 19 responses. And the last question for you is, are you aware of any open science related metrics used for academic promotion in your institution? This is just to get a feeling from the people who are taking part in this workshop. What are their personal encounters with using open science metrics in academic promotion? Let's see. So that's very interesting. We have about 1/5 of the participants who said yes, 1/4 who said no, and the majority actually says, I'm not sure. I think probably there is not a better introduction to the talk of our guest speaker today, because I started the webinar with this sort of statement that there are plenty of unknowns in this domain. And obviously, we see that the participants who are here have to figure it out how metrics can be used in their institutional procedures and the academic assessment. So a couple of words of introduction for our keynote speaker today. This is Dr. Birgit Schmidt, who is the head of Knowledge Commons at Göttingen State and University Library. That's a great library, a big pioneer in lots of domains, including digitization, and also different activities around open science. Her focus is on policies, infrastructures, and training. She's a member of several really influential international groups, including the management of LIBER, the Research Data Alliance, and others. She was the scientific manager of European Open Air project, so maybe some of our participants know her in person, I would expect, and of the Confederation of Open Access Repositories. So this is CoARA, which should not be confused with CoARA. CoARA is the project which provides the support for AURA, and this is project which explores how to advance research assessment. She has a background in mathematics and philosophy and a postgraduate degree in information science, and she's also an honorary professor of library science in the Applied University of Potsdam. We know each other for a long time, so this is exactly 10 years ago when we put together a very interesting conference, which was hosted in Malta. And as you can see from the topics, we have a long history of exploring topics around open science. This conference focused on citizen science 10 years ago, when I would say in Bulgaria this topic was not even discussed. And I digged a historical photo from this conference, from the conference dinner with a bit of a Maltese flavor. So yes, people discussed these topics for a long time, and now I think it's a great time to hear what's the most recent level of thinking in this domain. Birgit, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Milena, for
I'm stopping to share my slides.
sharing these memories and yeah, the lovely photo from back in 10 years ago. So is this in presentation mode or is it the presenter slides?
We see the presenter mode. We see your next slide as well.
Swap this. So do you see?
No, we still see the presenter mode.
Maybe I was. Let me stop this. Try again. This is always the issue with two screens. You never get it right on the first time. So let me share this again. So presenter mode. There.
Now it's perfect.
Oh, it's
Yes.
perfect. Good. So yeah. Okay, I'm as Milena said, I'm based at the University of Göttingen. I work in library since over 20 years, but I keep my relationships with research to a certain degree. I do a little bit analytical or information library science research when possible, integrated in projects typically, but also in committees. So today I'm going to speak about relationships between open science and research assessment. So this is only not only about metrics or the actual methodologies, but also about the data which is feeding into research assessment. So, but as an introductory slides, I of course also had some notes about open science itself. As you all know, this is a wide diversity of practices, including publishing papers, making data fair, and optionally also open, also preprints and so on. But this comes with some challenges, as we all know, both in terms of the effort which goes into making research outputs openly available, but also in terms of the costs, which can be substantial when it comes to open access publishing, or there might be challenges around the quality of journals. So not all journals are equal, of course, and there might, of course, also be challenges in terms of intellectual property rights, what people allowed to share, depending on in what research collaborations we work with, at what point in time might be the right time to share at least part of the research to make research reproducible and more transparent, and in this sense, improving the quality of research. So some of you might have come across this pyramid, which is what's created by Brian Nosek, a psychologist, also a couple of years ago. And it basically displays the different layers when it comes to making open science happen. So at the bottom, you have the infrastructures. And of course, this then has interfaces with the actual users. So make things easy means adapting these infrastructures to the actual use cases. And at the top, you have the policies. We heard quite a bit about the Bulgarian policies and institutional policies already. So this is kind of the top-down view. And from this side, often, of course, also comes the aspect of incentives, which are still not happening an awful lot, but there are, of course, some points. I will refer to this later as well in funder requirements, or sometimes there's awards implemented or little things which are happening in actual research assessments in institutions. And in the middle are the researchers, so communities of various disciplines, but of course also communities of infrastructure communities who help make this happen and work with the infrastructures, including infrastructures which are feeding into the European Open Science Cloud. And and from the perspective of researchers, when you think about your own career trajectory, you will likely have at some point, and for me it was during my PhD, someone telling me, okay, publish or perish is the thing you should think about. In mathematics, it was not a requirement for accomplishing a PhD, but of course you had it in the back of your minds, and what journals actually count and what are kind of at the fringe of attention or quality. And in the end, it's a requirement, but not necessarily like the silver bullet to actually succeed in a career, because there might be issues in the sense of when you are in a committee, you check who's on the board. Was it easy for the person to get into the journal? And discussions like that. I've seen this happening during my PhD time. So, and when it comes to the roles of researchers, you might have noticed this divide between actually investigating research questions, and the other side is this academic who has to manage a career, including the portfolio of outputs, the portfolio of having been successful in terms of research funding proposals. So this is the race for getting hold of research funds, which is often at the very top of the hierarchy of what is counted, or at the second spot, depending on the survey you look at. So when it comes to early career researchers' perspective, this is from a study from 2019, as far as I remember, no, 2020, from the UK. So they surveyed early career researchers on their perceptions, and they were quite positive regarding embracing open science principles in their research. But on the other hand, they were quite concerned on when to share, shouldn't I share, because of, well, you might lose some competitive advantage, or you look for what are the metrics related to the journals, and all these things which are so closely linked to make a career, the next career step happen. So I had a colleague, and when I already was working in libraries, she kind of came from biology, and she was kind of with some frustration left research, because she, in her postdoc years of, say, 2 years, she did not manage to be #1 in a paper. So all these things count, of course, when committees look at the portfolio of outputs. So another study which was conducted by Tony Ross-Hellauer, who was a member of my team some years back, and his team, they looked at so what are the perceptions of researchers on promotion criteria? So this is what they think, what counts. So at the very top, you find the generating of funding, so getting hold of project money, then leading projects, then the high quality publications, and publishing in highly regarded journals. And at the very bottom is all these nice open science practices, sharing code, sharing data. So, but when it comes to what they think, where these criteria should actually be in the hierarchy, you see some shift from the bottom to at least like a couple of spots higher for these openness practices, and also more emphasis on publications, actually, which were like third spot, I think, in the other one, and mentoring of early career researchers, PhDs, is here on second spot, and then comes the projects part. So this burden of third-party funding and so on is shifted a little bit down. An interesting study to look at. So, and when it comes to all these reform movements, there have been quite a few pushes, of course, from the bibliometrics community towards responsible use of metrics, which is often exercise which is putting less emphasis on the qualitative aspects, moving towards qualitative. I shifted it the other way around. So from more emphasis on peer review methodology, and the qualitative aspects, metrics should support the quantitative should support the qualitative review. So, and the broader landscape is, of course, these trends of diversity, equity, inclusiveness, and also team science, the openness, reproducibility, as measures to improve the quality of research has been mentioned a couple of times already. So, and research integrity often also integrate some of these aspects. Good practices which are emerging are often taken on board, including managing data, long-term preservation of data, and things like that. And also the aspect of societal impacts, including contributions to the Sustainable Development Goals, are areas where to be taken account when it comes to these reform movements. But while there are positive views on all these movements, there is still, of course, a substantial gap between these perceptions and the actual implementation. So a reminder on all the reports, starting from the DORA Declaration in 2013, moving forward to the commitments around the CoARA association, where our project is based. So, and this is from a study which was done in a context of the University Alliance. I leave this for your reference. This is kind of a mixture of these statements. The Hong Kong Declaration put a bit more emphasis on the research integrity aspects, and the other ones are a bit more focused on the responsible use of metrics. Without stating what is the alternative to the journal impact factor or the age index, but in general, providing some guidance in terms of a bit more balanced approach, and not necessarily completely discarding, but using these metrics with a clear understanding of what these metrics actually mean. So, and what happens if we just ignore open science when it comes to responsible research assessment? So this would, in my opinion, lead to some reinforcement of the actual status quo where we are, in the sense of there is changes in research workflows and communication. Several researchers and disciplinary communities care about reproducibility and have changed their workflows. And there's also conflicts with research policies, in particular with researcher funders policies. And there's missed opportunities in the sense there are good practices which likely need some nudging, some incentives to make them mainstream. So an example is, of course, from the European Commission context. So in Horizon Europe, there is a range of mandatory open science practices and a couple of additional voluntary open science practices. So the mandatory parts are open access to publications and making data fair and as open as and as close as possible. And it also encourages the sharing of additional materials when needed for understanding, validating the stated research findings of publications and other research outputs. So, and this is all assessed under the excellence criteria. So this is typically a section, of course, in a proposal. And when reviewers look at this, then the quality and efficiency implementation of the project is the perspective when evaluating these aspects. So examples from Europe, the Netherlands has a guide for managing of careers, which is called Room for Everyone's Talent, which comes with a couple of principles, including the encouragement of all aspects of open science. And this is, of course, as you can see, close to the other reform movements where you have this more emphasis on quality, this encouragement of endorsing good leadership and diversity. And similarly, when you look up examples of career assessment matrices, there's at least 2 national programs of this type from Norway and from Finland. And they typically also have this, sometimes they spell out some criteria as well. Here, open science is also listed. And one point in this guide, there's also a clear statement in the sense that more qualitative aspects should be considered at the individual level, and the when it comes to aggregated assessments, there might be more quantitative, more metrics-based assessments. So, for example, when you might look at a national perspective, there might be more, okay, how and what when it comes to the citations, there might be good to compare with other countries of the same size or the same number of researchers in a certain field to look at in what degree have these publications accumulated publications. So this there's specific metrics when comparing fields, of course, because often in this aggregation or across many fields, it might not tell you a lot because the citation practices are so different. So examples from CoARA action plans, there are quite a few references to open science in the sense of policies. Of course, the national policies are mentioned, also these frameworks, career assessment frameworks, which I just mentioned, and initiatives, evaluation practices, criteria are in general evaluated, reviewed as one of the action points in these CoARA action plans. Often there is also a mention that institutions would like to move to open data sources, including open ALEX. So open metadata is, of course, sometimes also compared in studies in terms of the comprehensiveness, which is depends on the research question if it's sufficient. And of course, there's a need to actually collect this bibliographic information at the institutional level, which is the most comprehensive collection you can get hold of, as every database is selective, including, of course, the big commercial databases. They are selective in terms of the journals and the types of research outcomes. They are looking into journal papers, conference proceedings, but not necessarily into contributions to anthologies or other publication types, which might be important in the humanities and social sciences. So regarding things I have been involved in, we have a university alliance, which is called ENLIGHT, which is one of these European universities, 10 partner universities. And we had a satellite project to the Erasmus Plus project, a research innovation project with some task on open science. And we created open science principles, which I briefly will show you in the next slide. And we created a network of open science ambassadors to help let them help to raise the level of awareness and share experiences, what works in different fields. And also we tested an open science award. So in the end, it was one early career researcher who was awarded one of the prizes, and another one was a group exercise where they created also a group of early career researchers. They created a guide on a training scheme for their fellow researchers on open science topics. So, and the open science principles we have created, they include, promotion of open science, fair and open data, open access to publications, open education, and also, the link to the research assessment. So not all member universities have signed CoARA, so it's quite a mix. So quite a few have signed DORA, and others have joined the CoARA coalition. So this was in March 24. So we had 3 had signed and were already active, and 3 had signed without having become active yet, and some more were considering but haven't signed yet. On my own university, we haven't signed yet, but it's kind of basically is the effort you have to put into these, and you want to take it seriously, and then you might become active first. I mean, it's very similar to policies. What comes first? Is it the infrastructure and the activity around a certain desirable practice, or is it the policy? And sometimes it's, the policies that comes first, or the policies come with some delay. So, and we also asked, has open science already arrived in recognition and reward approaches at the institutional level? And we spotted only a few cases. So when it comes to staff review, or when it comes to hiring processes, so examples from Groningen, for example, they have an Open Science Award since a number of years. So typically case studies on open research, open education practices. And Ghent, they have a procedure where full professors can report open science activities in their annual or biannual, I think it's longer periods, research evaluations, but it's voluntary. And in Göttingen, I have a knowledge, and I also used it when I was in a selection committee, plugging in a clause basically in a job announcement where you ask the candidate to explain the past and future plans and engagement for openness and transparency and reproducible research. So this was a formulation which emerged in the psychology community in Germany and was reused in different institutions. And we also used it when we had a professor post for scientific information analytics at Göttingen University. But there's no like tracking of or broad recommendation of using such a clause. It's in general, of course, up to the committee on how they handle the selection criteria. So, and today, earlier, from the studies out there, the Opus project was mentioned, but there's quite a few other projects which dig into and create researcher assessment frameworks or tools around research assessment. And just a couple of days ago, a guide was published also from the CoARA project, which is run by the DORA initiative, so which is broadly around implementing open science at the institutional level, but also says a little bit about open science. And then there's a couple of guides and proposals from disciplinary communities, and also institutions have trialed some approaches or made this regular after some trial period. So example, we have seen this approach from the Opus project. So, and when it comes to the research strand here, so they evaluate, make proposals in terms of possible metrics for each of these areas. For example, they have these indicators like, data management plans count how often this was actually used when creating a research project, which is in general an exercise when you propose this to early career researchers in a course. They don't mind. They just do it. And when it comes to project proposals, you might say, okay, it's something you do as much as needed. And when you do this inside a project, then of course you might have a perspective which is some take it very seriously, others were like, okay, it's something has to be ticked off, or there's very different attitudes towards this when it comes to implementing such practices, of course. But when there's a requirement, of course, projects will do it, and then it's up to the reviewers to give some valuable, some serious feedback, where is room for improvement for such things which you might later take as an indicator of quality. So from the disciplines, some time ago, I read two preprints. They came up with a proposal on also how to handle these different activity areas in a researcher profile. When it comes to research, they looked into, okay, what metrics or indicators might make sense for publications, what indicators for data and software. So these are the three main areas when it comes to psychology research. So they, of course, for publications, they put substantial effort when it's quantitative research into pre-registration, and they've journals out there where you can pre-register, and then the paper is reviewed without, or the pre-registration is reviewed, and the paper is accepted even if you have a null result after conducting the study, based on the quality of the pre-registration, which already went through peer review. And with all these indicators, of course, they might have some approach where they say, okay, if we now have masses of applications, how do we handle that? So the approach here, suggested approach, is to have some kind of threshold in terms of what you expect from a candidate, and then based on this pre-selection, you dig more into the qualitative aspect. So the quantitative is basically the entry, the first barrier, and then and candidates. And this is also from my experience in committees, you look into the quality only for a very limited number of candidates before you end up with some ranking of candidates. So one more example is from the Charité, which is a hospital, but also a network of institutes of health in Berlin. They had open data pilot incentives some years ago. So they had some actual small awards, and after this trial period, they integrated open data as a criterion in their assessments. So, but they listed some criteria on what makes this data as open data. So, for example, not just putting data just on your website, but putting data into a repository, which is coming with some citation support, so persistent identifier, librarians in the room. So this is, of course, a quality aspect. So making data fair is very much around managing the metadata well, and managing the infrastructure. And in the end, they also put together a dashboard to monitor the actual behavior. So over the years, there is some improvement in terms of both openness of publications through various routes, but also access to data which is underlying publications. And at the moment, I think this is at the level of about 10%, so it's slightly higher. I just looked at this again today. So this is basically the examples I wanted to share with you. And then if you want to read a little bit further, there's also quite a few landscape surveys out there The first two were a bit earlier in terms of, and they also come from the projects I mentioned earlier. So one is from the GraspOS project. I think the other one is, it's from Science Europe. And the last one is from CoARA working group. And just a few examples from these studies. So the first one from the GraspOS report. This was quite a low number of responses. They were asking which practices are currently considered when it comes to openness, transparency in research, when it comes to research assessment in institutions. So open access to publications is mentioned, data sharing, but also open peer review. So the numbers here are actually the numbers of responses. So it's not percentages, because this was a rather small study. They didn't compute the percentages. So it was only about 60 institutions responding. So rather small scale study. And Science Europe was surveying the members. So research performing, but also research funding organizations. Here is the same. It's only very limited number of respondents. I think it was about, let me check again, just 40 members are members of Science Europe, and 36 responded to the survey. So they were also asking this question: in what sense are these criteria already playing a role in your context? So, for example, German Research Foundation is a member, and these large organizations like CNRS or Fraunhofer was mentioned. So it's not the universities which are members of Science Europe. So here, fair data is mentioned a couple of times. Open access to publications, but many things are kind of under the radar when it comes to research assessment so far. So, and last thing from this survey is this one, also a recent survey from a CoARA working group, and they ask representatives from higher education and also research funding organizations. So this is kind of a mixture, which criteria should actually given more importance after the reform. So they highlighted just a few here. So importance after the reform, some decrease is expected from the respondents of the survey for research publications, not like a big decrease, but some decrease, and also for metrics related to publications, and increase. So the highest increase which they recorded in this survey is for open educational materials, indicators, open science indicators related to research outcomes and data, and also science communication, in particular to the general public. So, and I think this is quite well in line in a way with the slides I had earlier in terms of what researchers might also want in the sense of some shift. But I would say other things are less pronounced here. So this mentoring thing, for example, there was less strong change recorded in this survey. So to wrap up, areas where I would see a connection between the open science and the responsible research assessment is, of course, when it comes to the actual methodologies of how to implement the research assessment and what criteria to take into account, very much in line with the DORA declaration and the bibliometrics community advice and the transparency of method, what indicators are used and for what purpose, and collecting information on the actual open science activities, and for example, the approach of narrative CVs leaves, of course, room for emphasis on different types of outputs of activities, and which is this thing which you would like to encourage at the institutional level. In some research funders, we have now different templates. So German Research Foundation, for example, they since about 2 years now, they have a new template where they leave some room for narrative sections, and they have a new template also for research publications, where you can list both the peer-reviewed publications, but also in a different section of this outcomes list can list other outputs, including communication activities targeting the general public, or data sharing, publishing data, publishing software, which might not always be peer-reviewed. Yeah, so that's basically what I wanted to share with you, and I look forward to any comments or questions, and hope this is useful for your journey when it comes to implementing your project.
Thank you very much, Birgit. This was excellent. So we have a comment, super cool and very lucid. Thank you for the comment. Do we have any questions or other comments? If you would like to ask a question, you can raise a hand or you can type it in the chat. I just wanted to say that Aura will continue with a couple of more webinars. So on the 18th of June, we will have Eva Mendes from the University Carlos III in Madrid, another very interesting expert in this domain. So she will be discussing some of the issues around open review, a practice which is not very popular in Bulgaria, but also I would say in general it also needs to maybe grow and expand more. And then in September we will have colleagues from the University of Strathclyde, which is a member of CoARA, Devon McHugh. So she will be talking about measuring impact. Again, this is somehow related with valorization, value, societal value, and so on. So do we have any questions or comments? I don't see any questions in the chat, then I will use the fact that I have the floor and ask a question about the role of libraries. So I know that we have few colleagues on this meeting who come from libraries. So how all this sort of movement towards rethinking academic assessment influences the library? The library obviously is an important stakeholder, and it's not just an institution which provides some raw data, but it constantly looks at knowledge sharing. So what do you think is happening with libraries in this time?
I mean, the Barcelona Declaration might be familiar to some of you as well. I mean, there is, of course, opportunity to share data. I mean, this it's easier to implement transparency metrics also for reform of research assessment when the data itself for the research assessment is open. I mean, if you have a bibliography for your own institution, make this data open, which is part of the idea of applying these openness principles to institutions, and using, of course, open data which is out there, including OpenAlex, but also for classifying the openness status. There's other open data sets out there, and a colleague of mine is an analyst who's doing this regularly when it comes to, I mean, the kind of the bibliometric community. They're also step by step moving towards using more open bibliographic data. And my other role, I mean, I'm kind of I manage open science activities, but I'm also in working groups on research careers in the Guild and in Light. So we continue this working group approach where I met the assistant of our vice president of research, and we are regularly meeting and discussing, okay, how could we like give some the suggestion on how we could move gradually forward. I mean, towards you always have to prepare, I mean, bottom up to make the certain changes happen at the top, because my feeling often is that, managers in institutions, presidents, vice presidents, they don't have the time to fully engage in certain change processes. And then of course, you need to collaborate with the work level. And for this, I see a role of libraries as well. I mean, engage in alliances, I mean, at your institution, but also beyond, which lifts us a little bit higher in terms of the attention of the management. And often, of course, they say, I mean, my colleague at the vice presidency for research, she says, I mean, you have to have something which makes them fear that they lose, this contact to what the commission expects or what other funders expect in terms of what makes a good proposal, and is this already mandatory? So let's see how it evolves in the FP10, the next framework program of the commission. Will this become a little bit more strict? And then, of course, things get, moving. And that's why you, of course, keep an eye on what's happening in terms of what are the good practices, what might be something easy to implement without investing a lot of resources. But there is
Yes, so in Sofia University, it took quite a while, I think, to push this, as you said, the managerial levels and to involve the library. The library director, she was at the meeting, but I suppose she had to move elsewhere. Was very helpful in all these negotiations, but I feel there is still quite a long path to walk together. Thank you for this response. We have more words of thanks. That's your last chance to ask a question or to comment. I don't see anyone raising a hand. So, since we cannot clap, maybe we can send a round of emojis thanking Birgit for her nice and comprehensive and clear presentation. So if you want to send some emojis, that's welcome. Thank you. And I mentioned we will have more webinars, and we plan to obviously keep this structure, start in English, and then have a second part of reflection and sort of thinking how this applies to us in Bulgaria. I can invite now our international guests to leave because we will continue in Bulgarian language. But once again, thanks.
Yeah, thank you all. And good luck.
We will keep you updated how the thinking here evolves.
Yeah, and I'm happy to share my slides, of course. I mean, an earlier version is already on Zenodo, but I'm updated a little bit. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Сега моля българските участници да не напускат, защото ще продължим с малко обсъждане, просто със събиране на начални мисли по темата. За мен наистина е интересно как ви прозвучаха тези многобройни примери, които Бирги даде. Започвам да добивам такава представа, че ни трябва компас в тази област, защото много неща се подемат от различни страни, така да се каже. И в един момент става сложно човек да се ориентира кое, къде и как се случва и как да се адаптира към нашите нужди и целият процес на подкрепа на научните изследвания в България. Сега за следващата част сме подготвили едно интерактивно кратко обсъждане, което ще цели да се събере малко информация и от ваша страна, и това, което ще използваме в случая е нещо, което предполагам, че част от вас добре познават. Това е една платформа, която се нарича Padlet. Не изисква човек да се регистрира в нея, за разлика от други такива, затова го предпочетахме. Аз ще споделя екрана си, за да покажа как изглежда и за да обясня какво ще правим нататъка. Сега, това е нещо като дъска, на която можем да си закачаме различно съдържание. И в случая ние сме, не знам дали виждате екрана ми, аз споделих. За сега аз съм единственият човек, който е слагал някакви неща върху тази дъска. Виждате ли го? Да.
Да.
Значи, отначало имаме просто за така ориентация, няколко връзки към вебсайта на проекта. Този Padlet ще бъде достъпен и след тази сесия, така че можете да намирате тук като кратък справочник къде се случват различни дейности. И сме сложили преведената на български диаграма за дейностите в областта на отворената наука на ЮНЕСКО. Ако щракнете върху някои от плочките, тя може да се увеличава и да я разглеждате. Когато Биргит показваше една от диаграмите за напредък или за намаляване на дейности в определени области, те бяха всъщност подредени по тези сегменти от отворената наука на ЮНЕСКО. Сега ще се разделим на 3 групи по случайен принцип и в 10 минути във всяка група идеята е да се обсъдят различни теми, свързани с отворената наука и с нейната интегрирането и в процеса на научното оценяване и оценяването на академичния персонал. Значи, първата група ще обсъжда темата за метриките. Ние видяхме различни примери. И тук въпроса, който тази група ще има да бистрия, какви метрики от областта на отворената наука смятате, че ще са полезни? И тук, разбира се, не си говорим изобщо, а си говорим за ситуацията в България. Ако искате да добавите нещо, друга плочка към Padlet, това става много лесно. До всяко заглавие имаме едно плюсче. При натискането му се появява нова плочка, където може да се пише текст, може да се слагат картинки, изобщо има голяма свобода какво може да се прави. Втората група ще обсъди какви са мотивациите или факторите, които демотивират изследователите. Например, можем да разсъждаваме, че отворената наука иска допълнителни ресурси и време, което може да намали привлекателността и за изследователите. Това може да бъде нещо, което демотивира. Сега тези, разбира се, мотивиращи и демотивиращи фактори са много важни, защото от дълго време си обясняваме в България и изобщо в света какви са плюсовете на отворената наука, но все още има доста скептицизъм дали тя е нещо полезно. Има и съпротивление, да не кажа просто скептицизъм. Има хора, за които това е нещо, което е вредно. Така че е интересно да видим какво според вас преобладава, положителните мотивации или отрицателните. Пак става дума за наблюдения от българската практика. Третата група ще обсъжда какво е важно за институциите. Значи, след малко теги ще ни раздели на групи по случайен всяка група ще вижда, ако отидете на тази връзка, целият Padlet и всеки, който се включи, може да добавя плочки. Може да изберете човек, който да върши тази работа в групата. По-лесно е, ако сте на компютър, отколкото на телефон, но и от телефон също може да се случи. Това е само начало и можем да продължаваме да си развиваме този падлет и нататък в следващите дни и седмици. Има ли въпроси? Ясно ли е какво ще се опитваме да правим сега? Идеята е за 10 минути да се нахвърлят начални мисли по тези неща и след това да обсъдим обратно, като се върнем в цялата група. Сега може някоя група да й хрумне нещо, което друга група обсъжда. Не го игнорирайте, можете да го добавите, когато се върнем към обсъждане в цялата ни общност днес. Ако няма някакви въпроси, мисля, че Теди може да ни раздели и за 10 минути.
Милена, извинявай, я не съм.
Да.
Сега ние трябва ли да влезем някъде в интернета, за да намерим този падлет, или трябва да си го изтеглим?
Не, то е просто веб страница. Аз я копирах
Ето го
в
линкчето.
чата.
Аз не видях, извинявай. Сега
Да.
ще...
Като штракнете, значи той може да се ползва анонимно. Има разни други подобни средства, които искат човек да се регистрира. И
Аз това го чух, просто не видях, че има линк. Да, видях го линк.
Ами добре, Теди да ни раздели тогава.
Да, само един момент и ви разделям. Една секунда.
Ние не можем за такова кратко време да решим всички въпроси. Когато правим такива бързи обсъждания, тип нали, мозъчна атака, излизат неща, които нали, по някакъв начин са или доминантни, или вече сме мислили за тях, но това е някаква отправна точка.
Окей, аз си видях по...
Групите ли сте? Да. Здравейте. Бихте ли се обозначили? Дали ме чувате? Под някаква форма. Ние сме в група 3, може би. Чувате ли ме? Тук сме Елизабет, Ивана и аз, може би. Това сме Ятанас, това сме българите. И има един акаунт, който е с цифри, за който не съм сигурна. Има още Мария Юнакова, Стефан Белишки и Теодора Костадинова и Анита Жеркова. Успяхте ли да си намерите падлета? В нашата група 3 сме, да, 5 човека. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Калина, Мария, Стефан, Теодора Костадинова и Анита. Бихте ли ми дали някаква реакция? Дали ме чувате? и дали може да реагирате. Ивана, дали ме чува?
Теодора, вие ни изключихте хубавата приказка.
И нашата.
Да се включим и ние към вашата хубава приказка, защото при нас нямаше само един коментар, така че...
Ни отворихме суфрата за приказките.
Ако може само аз малко да обясня, значи това беше малко като такава блиц, въртане в блиц срещи, които се организират от време на време. Искахме да видим как се възприема и дали всъщност така има интерес наистина да се направи една по-пространна група за обсъждане в тази тема и да ползваме тази платформа. Ще си позволя накратко да обобщя какво е излезно от нашата група с метриките. Всъщност ние видяхме много примери, но в групата ни, в която бяха Йордан Илиев от Българския портал за отворена наука, Елка Дограмаджиева, която мисля, че от Геология-географския факултет, Светлана Симова от Института по органична химия и Корнелия, която се занимава с електронно обучение. Общо заето имаше доста така споделяне на лични практики, които в случая са свързани с това, че колегите харесват да използват ResearchGate и в него има възможност, ако видим някаква публикация, която привлича нашия интерес, ако тя не е споделена, да помолим автор да я сподели. Говорейки си за метрики, просто отбелязахме, че такава метрика няма, която всъщност да отчита това, че някой публикува нещо, което други колеги казват, аз искам да го прочета. Тоест, ето тук един такъв коментар имаше, който беше интересен. Сега с колегата от Института по органична химия пък се повдигна въпроса за споделянето на изследователски данни. Разбира се, в различни области споделянето на данни напредва, така да се каже, с различна скорост. Тя сподели, че от гледна точка на платформи за споделяне при нас все още предстои такива да се създадат и знаем, че Българския портал за отворена наука също мисли в тази посока. Иначе данни се споделят обикновено в репозиториуми, които са по научни дисциплини. Това, което добавих като коментар е, че понеже нямаме в момента механизъм, по който да се поощри това, че някой споделя отворено своите данни, всъщност виждаме практиката, че хората започват да се ориентират към публикуване на така наречените data papers. Те се публикуват в списание, което има видимост и метрики, а в различни области вече има такива списания, включително и в хуманитарните науки. Всъщност, когато се направи, така да се каже, официално такава публикация, един вид и това, че някой следовател е посветил доста време да събира и да обработи, да изчисти и да приведе в някакъв използваем от други колеги вид своите данни, може по някакъв начин да донесе до плюс в следващите процеси на оценка на този изследовател. Не е много, но за това време мисля, че е съвсем нормално, че имаме малък наброй приноси, но пък мисля, че бяха интересни. Сега радвам се, че се е харесала тази идея за разделяне по групи, обсъждане и документиране, така да се каже, какво идва от групите. Може би професор Пройкова ще ни каже за втората група.
Миленка, само за момент. Пламен нещо пише. Ние точно с Пламен се бяхме разговорили. Пламен, казваш ли нещо?
Той е споделил чернова на изследването по запитване на директор на библиотека. Пламен Милтенов е работил като Scholarly Communication Librarian и всъщност тук е обобщил, може би той най-добре ще обясни какво има в този документ, който е споделил.
Да, най-хубаво така. Ние бяхме почнали да си говорим. Пламене, ще кажеш ли?
Ами, не, аз поделям просто документа за по-късно, защото няма смисъл да монополизирам разговора. По-добре да се говорим сега, пък после дни можем да продължим разговора и след тази среща, нали?
Аз лично към 4:15 трябва да тръгна, така че продължаването можем да го договорим. Както решиш, сега аз да кажа, ние тогава накратко, ако мога за 2 минути.
Да.
Така, аз предложих да пишем за демотивиращи фактори, защото оттам се проникват и мотивиращите в известен смисъл, могат да се видят, като се махнат част от отрицанията. Това, което веднага се видя, че и два отговора имаше, че демотивиращ фактор е времето. Това е много време се изразходва, за да се подготвят данни и материали за споделяне и понякога това време просто няма откъде човек да го вземе. Второто нещо, което ме впечатли от нашата приятелка и колежка, тя каза, че такова занимание е доста самотно. Споделянето на данни, няма самишленици. И на мен не ми беше дошло на ум, че когато се чувства човек сам лястовица, която пролет не прави, той самия започва да се демотивира дали да го прави, след като няма споделяне на по-голяма общност с тази ценност. И бяхме единодушни, че институциите не са много подкрепящи или не желаят да си, или не знаят и не желаят да си изяснят какво означава отворена наука, или просто смятат, че това е нещо, което не си заслужава да се кредитира, и това е много силно демотивиращо. В нашия университет има всякакви примери, но няма да ги давам по-отделно. И едно от нещата, които ни отбелязахме, е, че има, това аз го написах, защото в нашата област е много спиращо, това е страх от използване на данните от по-бързи изследователи. Има се предвид, че много често ние можем да споделим хипотеза върху факти, които сме намерили, или някакви други интересни материали, и даже да нямаме достатъчно време да влезем в дълбочина в съдържанието на тези факти, като ги сложим, нищо, че ние сме ги генерирали. Изведнъж се оказва, че много други хора по-бързо успяват да излязат на преден план със своето си име. Сега цялата работа е, че аз във връзка с това искам да добавя нещо, което просто не го написах, почнахме да си говорим. Според мен най-демотивиращо в областта на физиката е, че ние всички много работиме в отделни международни екипи. В тези международни екипи има локални правила на самия екип. Високите енергии имат едни правила, ядрената физика има други правила, материалознанието трети, да не изборявам всички сегменти, лазерната техника. При това положение, в рамките на една катедра, ако има 5 човека, работещи в 5 или понякога 6 различни екипа, защото такива са му изследванията, те не могат да работят извън правилата на съответните екипи. Следователно, да се изиска от катедра, примерно катедрата по атомна физика, да възприеме определени стимули за отворената наука, затруднението е изключително голямо, и тук аз млъквам и оставам Пламен да си разкаже неговото.
Аз напълно съм съгласен с второто, че нали, той Брюксел поначало го плюят с тези опити за бюрократизация и кодификация. Тя Биргит много ясно го каза, то всички го знаят, че да направиш една такава схема, как да го кажа, бокс, да боксираш оценяването на отворената наука, не само, че е невъзможно, ами според мен отблъсква. точно както Ана току-що го каза. А за другото, за първото, което спомена, че много от преподавателите се страхуват да се споделят данните. Едното момиченце, с което работя в момента, тя го каза в прав текст. Тя го каза как да напиша аз за нещо, което някой друг ще ми го вземе. И University в Минесота мен ми направи много голямо впечатление. От 22 година са направили офис. И този офис се пропагандира из целия кампус, всъщност с всичките кампуси на университета, и кара преподавателите да ходят при тях с всякакви идеи. Не само за патенти, а точно с тези идеи. Какво те могат да кажат, например, в презентация на конференция. Докъде могат да стигнат, точно за да предпазят поучин, какво е контрабандирането, вземането на такива данни. И на мен тази идея ми хареса. Не знам за България дали може да се направи, защото ние сме много малка страна, но и затова казвам, че отгоре трябва да се натиска, защото правителството трябва да разбере, че трябва да се отпуснат допълнителни ресурси за такива офиси, за такова обучение. Трябва да има много дълго, много голямо обучение на преподавателите, за да се преодолеят тези страхове и всичките други компликации. Благодаря.
Ако само мога да се включа, защото закъснявам за друга среща. Споделям в линковете една публикация, където използват метафората за академичния амгъл по Толкин, нали, този персонаж, който не иска да споделя нищо и което е нещо, което е много така притеснително. Виждам, че Янита е вдигнала ръка. Оставям от тук нататък Теди да модерира и да продължи дискусията. Много се радвам, че видях всички и желая успех нататък.
Хубаво. Хубав ден.
Чао, Миленка, благодаря за всичко.
И аз.
Янита, ти си.
Аз исках да кажа, че по повод факта, че предвижда фонд научни изследвания да вкара в своята практика при подписването на договор с бенефициента, научната организация или отделен учен на договора с фонда, да се изисква план за управление на данните, Data Management план. Ние направихме една проба, направихме нещо като модел на Data Management план, който да дадем на фонда, върху него да работи, като използвахме практиките на други фондации, като Швейцарската научна фондация и Европейска комисия. Това, което на мен ми прави впечатление е, че искам да обърна внимание по повод споделените притеснения на учените за техните данни. Именно с такъв тип планове, с такъв тип програмиране на управлението на данните, всяка организация, всеки учен може да реши точно, да прецени точно какво от своите данни може да сподели. Дигитализират се всички данни, натрупани в съответния учен. Споделят се само тези, които вече са употребявани многократно, които са изпълнили своите функции в изследванията, които прави дадения конкретния учен. А те могат да бъдат полезни за друг негов колега, който работи в близка област, подобна област, прави нещо, което може да представлява интерес като данни за неговата област. Тоест не споделяш всичко, с което разполагаш. Няма страшно. Аз не мисля, че в този смисъл има опасност за твоите данни. Някой ти ги вземе, някой да ги използва, защото е по-бърз от тебе. Мисля, че никой не бива да споделя, не се очаква от никого да споделя данните, сурови данни, които никога не е използвал, нали, още не е анализирал, не е използвал. Те се остават в хранилището, но не в тази част, която е публичната част, а в предпазената, защитената част от хранилището. Това, което исках също така да кажа е, че в програмата, която разработваме и която искаме да бъде изцяло посветена на подпомагане на организациите да преминат в по-голяма отвореност на работата си, ще има финансиране и за инфраструктура, и за дейта стюарди, за обучения, преди всичко и в началото най-вече за обучения и за други форми на защита. Така че Това е за всички, които не знаят, работи се в тази посока и това е целта ни да направим възможно. Сега очакваме, разбира се, съответните екипи, които работят в дадената организация, да подготвят своя план. Бизнес план, какво точно им трябва, как ще го организират, колко хора ще наемат, колко стюарди, колко ще обучат, кога ще ги обучат и какви пари са им нужни за това, какъв хардуер им е нужен. Така че процесът е двупосочен. Ние ще дадем парите, но искаме те да знаят точно за какво ще ги ползват, нали, какво им е нужно и колко им е нужно. Това е.
Аз тук бих искала да споделя опита от администрацията и отворените данни. И според мен би било добре да се сложи като изискване, когато се финансират научни проекти от, примерно, фонд научни изследвания, да има такова изискване, да има задължение за публикуване на отворените данни, както е в европейските проекти, в програма Хоризонт. Това би насърчило, нали, като изискване, когато има, да поне да се започне този процес. Исках да кажа, че в администрацията, когато правихме портала за отворени данни, също беше проблем кой, как, защо. И за това непрекъснато се искаше да има някаква законова рамка, в която процеса да се случва. Но след като видяха, че хората от администрацията видяха, че тези отворени данни имат полза за самите тях, тогава започнаха по-активно да ги споделят.
Да, иначе закона дава някаква рамка, някакъв старт дава закона. Ние задължаваме институциите, научните да споделят своите научни резултати, научни данни. Повече или по-малко. Така че закона вече го има факта и регламентира тези. Или поне дава предимство на... Тоест, вменява задължение, което не е много приятно, но има го в закона. И трябва всички да се съобразим с това и да направим така, да, този топ-даун подход вече е факт. Трябва да видим какво обаче трябва там долу, за да се случат нещата реално, без да се създава страх и шум и притеснение, да има по-скоро един процес, бавен процес на преход с съответните финансови средства за изпълнението на този процес.
Много си права, Яни. Това, че има закон, първо даже може да кажа, че много от хората даже не знаят около мен за този закон. Когато се видяхме и с тебе, и с останалите колеги в нашата голяма зала в университета, имаше колеги, които за първи път чуха, че има такъв закон. Нищо, че беше минала година, нали? Той е от миналата година, май. Той, понеже не е от тези закони, дето те боли, в смисъл няма нещо силово, което да налага неговото използване. И затова нещата няма да бъдат лесни, но от друга страна ние сме свикнали на бавно темпо. Мисля, че и сега така ще бъде. Просто въпросът е да не се отчаива вашата млада група. Аз много ви се радвам, защото вие в Министерството чудеса от храброст правите, да не казвам колко малко хора, но много работа вършите. Това отвън не се вижда, но на мен така ми се е случил живота, че съм много близо до вас и знам какво ви е. Но тук искам да кажа за всички колеги, че няма да е лесно. Не съм от хората, които искам да внушавам оптимизъм на празен и затова бих предложила нещо всяка учебна година да я почваме с семинар на тая тема. Ако Министерството може да пусне нещо като подтикващо съобщение към всички университети, аз моя университет мога да пусна такова предложение и да помоля колегите да го... Нали, то да става. Но в България има 50 университета и това трябва да се върти на първи курс. Студентите просто трябва веднага да бъдат запознати с това. Това е моето предложение. Теодора, ако искаш го запиши някъде.
Да, записах. И аз също искам да кажа, че по този проект, това, което Янита каза, че трябва, нали, изследователите да бъдат включени, ние сега имаме възможност по този проект да направим пак 2-3 фокус групи с изследователи, с университетска администрация, така че ще можем също там да формулираме още препоръки, които да обобщим. И наистина аз това виждам и от проекта Орбит и от проекта Аура, че има абсолютна необходимост това да се прави, което професор Пройкова каза, за популяризиране на отделни теми от отворената наука, защото има много и най-различни неща, а пък младите учени са много отворени, според мен, към това. Защото това е някакъв вариант за тях, за кариера.
Аз бих предложил, макар че едва ли ще стане, защото отново той изисква време и усилия, а пък вече се спомена, че всички сме на ръба, никой не иска да приема повече на чинията си. Но това, което е в началото на годината, абсолютно, нали, да се споменава, но то после увяхва просто, то после много бързо изветрява, мисля, че беше ноември месец, последната седмица от ноември се чества, по света се чества отворен educational, open access се чества. След това януари месец правих open data и ако може и така да се пръснат 2-3 неща през годината, просто които да напомнят, ако не 2 пъти в семестъра, поне веднъж в семестъра, да се набива в главите. И то не отнема толкова много време, защото отново обикновено един библиотекар организира всичко. Това, което се прави, да се пуща по социалните медии, да се поканят един или двама преподаватели, които ползват, нали, които са правили Open Data, които са правили Open Science, да поговорят, ръководството да купи една пица, да се съберат хората, така че не е много скъпо и трудно, но пък оставя, нали, някакъв белег. Това бих предложил аз.
Да, аз благодаря. Тук има още един коментар. Освен за кариера, младите са мотивирани и като социално ангажирани граждани, което да, така е факт. И това също трябва да се използва. Примерно това, което направихме с менторската програма по Орбит, показа, че те наистина имат много добри идеи, които могат да се реализират. И според мен е това, което направихме заедно с Министерството, тази награда за отворена наука да стане ежегодна и това би стимулирало също хората да участват и да помислят поне по този въпрос. Защо какво биха могли да направят с техните изследвания. Добре, други мнения, предложения? Ако искате да спрем до тук.
Да, да, това е добро предложение, защото виждам, че и 15.
Да спрем до тук и просто единственото нещо, което аз имам проблем, нали, да намеря хора, които така имат интерес към темата. Всъщност това е, може би, как да намерим хора, които да се заинтересуват от темата и да работят по нея, да я приложат в своите собствени изследвания и да видим как би могло да се направи тази оценка. Давам ви думата на вас, професор Пройкова, така да обобщите и да приключим.
Благодаря много. Искам да кажа, че за мен това беше успешна среща, в която и непознати хора се видяха и чуха един друг. И това е пътя към откриване на готовите хора, така че вие можете да направите един такъв списък и чрез LinkedIn, аз не знам Фейсбука дали е подходящо, и но чрез страниците на проектите да направите такъв call for enthusiasts или researchers. Според мен най-хубавото на днешната ни среща беше, че виждаме, че процесът е започнал в България на различни места и от една страна е хубаво да знаем, че има нужда от координираща група. Добре е вашия проект, че се е захванал така да координира дейностите и може би ще трябва да мислим в рамките на двустранни разговори, да ги наречем, за различни методи за стимулиране на този интерес сред хората. Благодаря на всички, на нашата група за участието на тази. И Пламене, аз изтеглих този документ, който ти изпрати. Ще го чета до вечера.
Чудесно. Много интересно беше. Аз ви благодаря.
Благодаря на всички и
Виждане, беше
до нови срещи.
Чао.
Чао.
Яни, чао.
Благодаря
До среща.
Благодаря на всички.
Кажани.
Айде, чао, чао.
Чао, чао.